The Assembly is now in session. Assemblymember Holden notices the absence of a quorum. The sergeants at arms will prepare the chamber and bring in the absent members. The clerk will call the roll.
Ashajian, Alejo, Allen, Baker, Bigelow, Bloom, Bonilla, Bonta, Bro, Brown, Burke, Calderon, Campos, Chang, Chow, Chavez, David Chu, Canson Chu, Cooley, Cooper, Dababne, Daly, Daly, Dodd, Eggman, Frazier, Gaines, Gallagher, Cristina Garcia, Eduardo Garcia, Gatto, Gibson, Gomez, Gonzalez, Gordon, Gray, Grove, Hadley, Harper, Hernandez, Holden, Irwin, Jones, Jones Sawyer, Kim, Lackey, Levine, Linder, Lopez, Lowe, Mainshine, Mathis, Mays, McCarty, Medina, Melendez, Mullen, Nazarian, Obernolte, O'Donnell, Olson, Patterson, Perea, Quirk, Rendon, Ridley Thomas, Rodriguez, Salas, Santiago, Steinorth, Stone, Thurmond, Ting, Wagner, Waldron, Weber, Wilk, Williams, Wood. Madam Speaker.
Members, a quorum is present. A quorum is present. We ask our guests and visitors in the rear of the chamber and in the gallery to please stand for the prayer. The day's prayer will be offered by our Assembly Chaplain, Father Constantine Papadimos. Father Papadimos.
Good afternoon. Let us pray. Lord, from an early age, no matter the language, we all learn the word help. When we're little, we always need help from our parents, our siblings, and others. And even as we grow older, we still need help from time to time. The only difference is that we learn many more different ways to ask for it, and many different sources for it. Lord, while we're busy asking our friends for help, guide us to ask you first. For when we approach you, we can walk through the valley of the shadow of death, and we will fear no evil. Amen.
Thank you, Father. We ask our guests and visitors to remain standing and join us for the flag salute. Please join Assemblymember Chu as he leads us in the pledge. Assemblymember Chu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues and visitors, please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
You may be seated. Reading of the previous day's journal.
Assembly Chamber, Sacramento, Wednesday, March 18, 2015. The Assembly met at 7 a.m. Honorable Kristen Olson, Assembly Member, 12th District, presiding. Chief Clerk E. Dotson Wilson at the desk. Reading Clerk Kathleen M. Lewis,
Mr.
reading.
Holden moves. Ms. Olson seconds that the reading of the previous day's journal be dispensed with. Presentations of petitions, there are none. Introduction and reference of bills will be deferred. Reports of committees will be deemed read and amendments deemed adopted. Messages from the governor, there are none. Messages from the Senate, there are none. Moving to motions and resolutions, the absences for the day. For personal business, Assemblymember Bro. For illness, Assemblymember Gray. Mr. Holden, you are recognized for your procedural motions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request unanimous consent to suspend Assembly Rule 118 and allow Speaker Atkins, Assembly Members Burke, Gaines, Lopez, and O'Donnell to have guests and photographers on the floor today.
Without objection, the request is granted.
I request unanimous consent to suspend Assembly Rule 45.5 and allow Assembly Members Cooley and Thurman to speak on adjourned memories today.
Without objection, the request is granted.
And pursuant to Assembly Rule 96, I request unanimous consent to re-refer the following bills to committee. Assembly Bill 651, Cooper, from Public Safety or Public Employees, Retirement and Social Security Committee to the Public Safety Committee, and Assembly Bill 276 from the Environmental Safety and Toxic Materials Committee and the Judiciary Committee to the Environmental Safety and Toxic Materials Committee only.
Without objection, that request is granted.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Members, moving to guest introductions. First to Mr. Hadley. Mr. Hadley, are your guests with us today in the Assembly?
Yes, they are. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to have with us today in the gallery a group from Leadership Torrance up to my left. Leadership Torrance is a program sponsored by the Torrance Area Chamber of Commerce to engage and develop existing and future leaders in Torrance and the neighboring cities in the South Bay. So they've come up from the South Bay of Los Angeles. They're here with us, and I'm proud to have them here today. Thanks for coming.
Ms. Burke, you are recognized at your desk for your guest introductions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. It's my pleasure to introduce several of the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority leaders today. As many as you know, what began on the Howard University campus in 1908 has grown into a powerhouse organization with 283,000 members across the globe, some of which have served in this House. Joining us today, Dr. Barbara Denson Trotter, Archeline Martin, Leslie Tenson, Patrice McKenzie, and Gail Atlee.
Mr. Rodriguez. Mr. Rodriguez, you are recognized for your guest introduction.
Thank you, Madam Mr. Speaker and members. This morning, I'm pleased to introduce the 2015 California Ambulance Association Stars of Life recipients. The Stars of Life are emergency medical service providers who are honored for going above and beyond the call of duty to provide life-saving care to others in their critical time of need. I have been an EMT for 30 years and was honored as a Star of Life myself in 2006. Emergency medical service providers possess a strong sense of duty to help others and I can tell you from my personal experience that that sense of duty never goes away. Please join me in congratulating the 2015 Stars of Life recipients who are standing above at the gallery. On my right, can you please stand? Thank you.
Thank you, members. Moving to business on the daily file. The second reading, the clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 249 and 25.
All bills will be deemed read and amendments deemed adopted. Moving to Assembly third reading. File item number 3, ACR 27. The clerk will read.
Assembly Concurrent Resolution 27 by Assemblymember Beth Gaines relative to the month of the young professional.
Ms. Gaines, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. ACR 27 proclaims the month of March 2015 as the month of the young professional. Young professionals play a significant role in the economic viability of the state of California. They have partnered with business and community leaders to promote and create a viable and livable place for their peers. The attraction and the retention of young professionals is essential to the future competitiveness for the state of California, its businesses, and its citizens. I ask for your aye vote in supporting the month of the young professional, and I'd like to ask that the first roll call be open for co-authors.
Very good. Ms. Gaines is asking that the first roll be open for co-authors. Members, this is for co-authors. The clerk will open the roll. All members vote who wish to vote. This is to add on as co-authors on ACR 27. This is for co-authors, members. We have 69 co-authors added on ACR 27. Without objection, we may take a voice vote on this item. All those in favor say aye. Aye, opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Ms. Gaines, back to you for your guest introduction.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. In honor of the month of the young professional, I'd like to introduce two young professionals from my district who have joined us in the rear of the chambers. There's Ashley Harris. She's the chair of Ignite Young Professionals in Roseville. She works for Galena LLP and resides in the city of Lincoln. Brian Gutierrez is the chair of Folsom's Leading Young Professionals. He works as an investment advisor representative for PGR Solutions. Mr. Gutierrez resides in Cameron Park, California. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Harris, Mr. Gutierrez to the Assembly chambers, as well as some of their colleagues seated in the gallery.
File items number 4 and 5 are passed and retained. Moving to file item 6, AB 91. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 91 by the Committee on Budget, an act relating to the Budget Act of 2015.
Dr. Weber, you may open.
Yes, Mr. Speaker and members, AB 91 and the bills that follow are budget vehicles that will be amended to contain the contents of the 2015-2016 budget package. We're moving these bills over the Senate today so that two of these vehicles can be used for the drought package, which we will take up on the floor on Thursday. As we move through the budget process, we have vetting and adopting statutory language that will eventually be amended into these bills, as has been our traditional practices. We swapped these bill vehicles with the Senate to allow both houses to pass the budget package on the same day and on time. After we take up AB 91, I will ask that the desk to take up a series of identical vehicles, AB 92 through 95 and AB 104 to 138, and ask that we substitute the roll for these bills. I would like to recommend immediate transmittal of all of these bills to the Senate. I ask for your aye vote.
Ms. Melendez, you are recognized at your desk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, I rise today to express great concern about these bills that we have before us today. You are being asked to vote on an empty vehicle. It's like being handed an invoice and being told you're being charged for these goods or services. We don't know what those goods or services are yet, and we don't know how much it's going to cost you, but we still want you to commit to paying for it. And I don't think that many of us can go back to our constituents and say with a straight face and a clear conscience that that is the best way to conduct business. I very much respect the budget chair's comments about the process, and I do understand that this is something that has taken place quite often, but I think the process can be done better. The California government, the California Public Interest Research Group, they gave us an F grade in transparency when it comes to government spending, an F grade. So while we just had Sunshine Week last week, where we're talking about transparency in government and transparency in spending and how we're spending California taxpayers' money, we now have 40 bills before us that are empty. And I don't think that that's the best way to do business. So I would ask that you not support these bills today. If the majority party would like to put forward their budget and we can have a conference committee for that purpose, I would welcome that and be happy to participate, as many of us here would. But I don't think this is the best way to do this. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Ms. Melendez. Mr. Obernolte, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I also rise today in opposition to AB 91 and to the other budget spot bills we're asked to pass this afternoon. Members, I'm troubled by the fact that we're being asked to pass an empty bill for the budget with no supporting detail, rather than following the established rules of this chamber. If we followed the rules, we would pass a fully fleshed out budget bill. That bill would go over to the Senate, and then we would work out any differences in those bills in conference committee. Instead, we're being asked to pass an empty set of budget bills, which will result in the entire budget negotiation taking place in conference committee, instead of being debated on this floor. I find this particularly troubling because I think everyone in this room would acknowledge that in past years, this unorthodox practice has led to a substantial reduction in public transparency in our budgeting process. And as Assemblywoman Melendez indicated, this body, just a week ago today, overwhelmingly approved a resolution declaring last week as Sunshine Week. And we asked in that resolution that governments throughout the state of California pursue and adopt practices that encourage open and transparent government and access to public information. Members, we need to practice what we preach here. Now, I recognize that the proposed action might be the more expedient thing to do, but I would argue that transparency should never be sacrificed to expediency, especially when we're talking about the allocation of billions of dollars of taxpayers' money that our constituents have entrusted to us. Californians deserve an open and transparent budgeting process, and that's why I'd ask that you join me in opposing AB 91 and the other budget trailer bills that we'll be considering this afternoon. Members, we can do better than this.
Ms. Grove, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In my view, these bills symbolize a broken budget process. When you cast your vote for these bills today, you'll be voting for the unknown. When you have no idea what the final bills, the language in this final bill will be the outcome. You have no idea what that will be. We won't be able to amend these bills when they come back. And what's wrong with letting the public know what's in these budget bills? What's wrong with posting it online? What's wrong with letting the average person be able to look up and see what we're doing and have a comment phase? You know, just last week, as my colleague said, we passed a transparency bill about government being transparent and more open to the public. But yet these empty vehicles with nothing in them but a simple statement about an act to enact the budget or budget act for this period of time years is just going to be passed through with no actual language in it. You know, that sets us up for future scandals like the Cal Fire Slush Fund, the issues that we dealt with state parks. You know, the first year I was here as a freshman legislator, and we passed this empty budget package. We defunded transportation to schools and immediately had to fix this when LA Unified came back and said that they couldn't afford to get kids to school without the budget transportation funding. These are the things that go in hidden budgets and hidden agendas. We need to reform our budget process. The Republicans have proposed a 72-hour period before final budget votes are taken, zero-based budgeting for our largest departments, and moving to a 2-year budget cycle. These bills right here that we're passing today allow secrecy to take place, and the language will be inserted the last day of the last moment of the last hour that we get to vote on this at the end of June. The thing is that we need to stand up and recognize transparency in governments and making sure that our government operates for the people. Let's send a message that we need more oversight and more long-term stability in our budget process. Let's not waste time on sending empty budget bills back and forth. Let's see what's in it before we pass it. Even the federal government with the Affordable Care Act and the famous statement that we have to pass it to see what's in it. We don't need to pass this to see what's in it. Let's say no, have the work go back into the budget, have the language inserted into the bill, and then make sure that we vote on what we know we're supposed to be voting on and nothing is hidden and in secret. So I just ask that would you please vote no or at least abstain. Have the bills have language put in it so we can know what we're voting on.
Seeing no further discussion, Dr. Weber, you may close on the item.
Yes, Mr. Speaker and members, I appreciate the comments of my colleagues and the information that they presented. Most of us understand the process and the fact that the Budget Committee is probably one of the largest, if not the largest committee in this House that has representation from both parties, and I think maybe even all of the speakers are members of the budget committees. You will have an opportunity, as stated in my early statement, that we are vetting all of those. You will have an opportunity to attend all of the meetings. They are open to the public as well as every member here. We get notices of all of the subcommittee hearings where all of the issues are raised. The voting in those subcommittees will take place in a public forum so you can have an opportunity to see all of that. And when it comes back to this floor, you will have an opportunity once again to vote on the budget. We understand the process. We understand the urgency of this matter, the things that are coming before us. We also know that it is important that we have a timely budget, and this is merely a process that we've all agreed upon in the past as a way in which we will move the budget. Until that changes, I, sir, ask for your aye vote for AB 91 and ask that once it passes, that the vote will be substituted for the other AB bills that I've mentioned. I ask for your aye vote.
With that, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. 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 The clerk will close the roll and tally the vote. Ayes 48, noes 23. Measure passes. Dr. Weber is requesting that the previous roll call vote on file item 6, AB 91, be substituted for file items 7 through 45. Without objection, the roll call from the previous bill will be substituted for file items 7 through 45. The clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 92.
After.
Assembly Bill 93, 94, 95, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114, 115, 116, 117, 118, 119, 120, 121, 122, 123, 124, 125, 126, 127, 128, 129, 130, 131, 132, 133, 134, 135, 136, 137, and 138.
Ayes 48, noes 23. Measures pass. File items 46, 47, and 48 are passed and retained. File item 49, ACR 43, the clerk will read.
Assembly Concurrent Resolution 43 by Assemblymember O'Donnell and others relative to California Aerospace Week.
Mr. O'Donnell, you may open on the measure.
Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker and Assembly members. Today I am pleased to present ACR 43, which will designate this week, March 23rd to the 27th, as California Aerospace Week. The aerospace industry in California is responsible for over 700,000 jobs in the state and annually raises around $2.9 billion in state income tax revenue. The California aerospace industry leads the United States in aerospace services, from the design and manufacture of aircraft and spacecraft to the creation of systems and instruments used in radio and television broadcast and wireless communication systems. From the Ames Research Center in Mountain View to the newly announced Virgin Galactic rocket plant in my own Long Beach district, up and down this great state, we can see the aerospace industry's contributions to not only California's economies, but the nation's economy. Please join me in recognizing the contributions of the aerospace industry to the history, economy, and security of California.
Thank you, Mr. O'Donnell. Mr. Hadley, you are recognized.
Mr. Speaker and members, I rise today as a principal co-author of ACR 43, and I urge your support for this measure. Throughout history, California has led the world in aerospace advancements. From the engineers who built the Ryan Spirit of St. Louis for Charles Lindbergh's famous flight, to NASA's team at the Jet Propulsion Laboratories who landed the Curiosity rover on the surface of Mars, California has brought aerospace innovation to new heights. The major aerospace accomplishments that California has supported have resulted in a great return for California. Our state is home to more than 700,000 aerospace jobs housed in U.S. Air Force bases, launch sites, airports, observatories, NASA research centers, and many other state-of-the-art facilities, including in my home district in the South Bay of Los Angeles. These jobs and these facilities are a vital part of not just our economy, but of our defense structure as well. And the U.S. aerospace industry is dependent on California's strength in this vital industry. The South Bay and the surrounding areas have been home to the aerospace industry virtually since its inception. I'm proud to be part of this resolution, which recognizes the contributions of this dedicated and highly skilled community, and I urge an aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Hadley. Back to you, Mr. O'Donnell, for your close, and if you might indicate if you'd like co-authors on this resolution.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. I ask that the roll be open for co-authors, and I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. O'Donnell. With that, the roll will be open. This is for co-authors members on ACR 43. All members vote who wish to vote. This is to add on as co-authors. Members, there are 73 co-authors added on ACR 43. Without objection, we may take a voice vote on this item. All those in favor say aye. Opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. And Mr. O'Donnell, back to you at your desk for your guest introduction.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In honor of Aerospace Week, I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce two people here, two gentlemen who are very involved in the aerospace industry. Mr. Steve Sidorak, the Manager of Public Policy and Government Relations at the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronomics, and Mr. Bill Barato, the California Chapter Vice President of the American Society of Aeronautics. We welcome you, gentlemen.
Moving to file item 50. That's H.R. 7. The clerk will read.
House Resolution 7 by Assemblymember Lopez and others relative to adult education.
Ms. Lopez, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I'm presenting HR, which recognized this week as adult education. Adult education is a public education program that offers low classes for adults 18 and older. The qualified programs meet every challenging economic job training and workforce development, as well as lifetime diversity state. Students receive high school diploma or GED, engage their reading and writing skills, as well as development of other career training skills. Adult education is instrumental in integrating nearby arrived immigration to provide citizenship classes for learners English, which we aim to one day become a citizen of the United States. I'm very proud to bring this special attention to the effort for North Valley Occupational Center, found in my district, which serves 10,000 students in 31 programs, including high school diploma and ESL classes as a second language, immigration, citizenship, and out-of-body programs. Those opportunities are serving help address the unique needs of individuals, communities, and our state. I'm asking you for your aid vote and at this time to open for a roll.
Ms. Lopez is asking that the first roll be open for co-authors. Seeing and hearing no further discussion, the clerk will open the roll. Members, this is for co-authors on H.R. 7. Co-authors adding to H.R. 7. There are 71 co-authors added. Without objection, we may take a voice vote on this item. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Ms. Lopez, you are recognized for your guest introduction.
Thank you, Speaker, and an honor to welcome a remarkable group of individuals. Join me in the near chamber, Larry Torres, Tulaka Leadul, President of California Council for Adult Education, Chris Nelson, Director of Oakland Adult Career Education, past President of California Council for Adult Education, Brian Kelly, teacher of Tulake Adult School, Leslie Pineda, Instruction Assistant, Tulake Adult School. Adult education allows for many citizens for again that necessary knowledge and skills to be effective members of society.
Moving to Senate third reading. File item 51. Members, we will pass and retain on file item 51 in Senate third reading. Moving to consent calendar. Does any member wish to remove an item from the consent calendar? Seeing and hearing none, the clerk will read the second day consent calendar.
Assembly Bill 217 by Assemblymember Mainshine, an act relative to juvenile law.
The clerk will open the roll on the consent calendar. All members vote who desire to vote. This is the consent calendar, members. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll and tie the vote. Ayes 74, no 0. The consent calendar is adopted. Moving to announcements and adjournments in memory. Request to adjourn in memory. The following members were granted prior permission to speak on an adjournment in memory. Mr. Cooley, you are recognized at your desk for your adjournment in memory.
Colleagues, I rise today with a heavy heart to adjourn in memory for Wesley Stewart Simmons. It was remarked that I had a birthday last week, and my good friend Wesley Stewart Simmons passed away on my birthday. He was age 69. He had fought a long battle with myelofibrosis. And I just want to rise today in honor of him. He is survived by his wife, Sandra. They would have celebrated their 40th anniversary this year. Two children, David and Emily, both married, 3 grandchildren. Also his brother, Walter Frazier, sister, Betty Scott. He was preceded in death by his brother, Donald, his sister, Evelyn Ulrich, and his sister, Maxine Frazier. His grandchildren, whom he leaves behind, are Adam Gabriel, Isaac Jacob, and James Wesley. He was born in Oroville. He was a product of Sac State. After college, he met his wife. He knew her for 10 years before he ever asked her for a first date. She put the fear of something in him because she was 3 inches taller than him, and she had once told him that she would never go out with a guy that was shorter than she was. This caused them as friends to discuss their love lives, and they had spent 10 years talking about relationships and how they worked and sharing their philosophy of relationships until, emboldened, one night after work, he put a note on her car asking her if she would go out on a date. And she got right back to him and said yes, she would. And they were married in 75, and as I say, would have been married 40 years this year. The types of stories you hear about Wes, he loved his kids, and he was it just kind of typified him. His wife tells the story that they were traveling in Oregon. They were camping on the coast in Oregon in their motorhome on a Wednesday, and the phone rang, their mobile phone, and it was his daughter from Davis saying, "Would you be available on Friday to babysit the kids because our daycare is closed?" And he said, "Of course." So he hung up the phone and packed up the van and the motorhome and went home to take care of his daughter. His daughter Emily tells a story that when the winter turned sharply in the Sacramento area, Wes saw her jacket in the hallway closet and drove all the way to Davis so she would have a winter coat when the weather turned. And their son David can say that his dad was always supportive, always nurturing, and what he stands out is he remembered that he was always a curious child, but he never recalled being told enough or be still in the face of his genuine curiosity. And that genuine curiosity led David to MIT. He holds patents on some of the components in our iPhones and worked on the Curiosity rover on the planet Mars. Anyway, I'm just honored to request that we adjourn today in memory of Wesley Stewart Simmons, died last week, March 18th, age 69, a resident of Gold River, California, in the 8th Assembly District.
Thank you, Mr. Cooley. Mr. Thurman, you are recognized at your desk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I rise to request that we adjourn in memory of Philip John Story, Sr., who is a family member of someone who serves this House. He is the brother of my scheduler, Margaret Story. Miss Story, who many of you know because she's worked here and served with many members. If you've ever met her, you know she's someone who's deeply caring and committed to the community, as was her brother, and we're sorry for her loss. Philip Story passed away on February the 14th from liver disease. He was born in Dodge City, Kansas, and he was with his twin sister Phyllis, the youngest two of 8 children born to Andrew and Eleanor Story. Philip was a retired captain with the Sacramento Fire Department, where he served for 20 years. Early in his career with the fire department, he responded to a fire at a storage facility where a fellow firefighter's oxygen tank had run out of air. At risk to his own life, Philip followed the warning bell on the tank, and he found that firefighter and shared his oxygen while he guided that firefighter out of the building. He was recognized by the department for his heroism. Philip was a dedicated fire captain, and he cherished people in challenging communities that he served in. He instilled his example of compassion, commitment, values, and principles to the fire crews that he led, and he always insisted on the highest standards of service. He attended career fairs at the local community colleges and employment job fairs to recruit candidates for the fire service. He also volunteered his time with the fire department's medical services unit at the annual Rancho Murrieta Pro Golf Classic. Prior to entering the fire service, Philip was a sheriff with the Sacramento Sheriff's Department. Philip lived and worked in Sacramento. He mentored kids in Glen Elders, the South Sacramento neighborhood where he grew up. He was a member of the Full Gospel Businessmen's Fellowship, and he was very active in his church, Pleasant Hill Christian Praise Center, with their outreach programs to the community. He was a former tutor of Spanish and French at the Casimes River College, where he graduated with an Associate's of Arts degree. We honor his memory and send our condolences to his children, Philip Jr., Felicia Princell, granddaughters Kaylin and Carson, and his mother, Eleanor, his father, Andrew, his surviving siblings, including our scheduler, Marta Story. Thank you for adjourning in his memory.
Thank you, Mr. Thurman. Members, please bring the names to the desk to be printed in the journal. All requests to adjourn in memory will be deemed read and printed in the journal. We do have some additional announcements, members. On behalf of the Rules Committee Chair, I would like to announce that the Rules Committee will be meeting after the State of the Judiciary this afternoon in the Rules Committee room. That's after the State of the Judiciary. That is the Rules Committee. Assemblymember O'Donnell, you are recognized at your desk for an additional announcement related to your resolution.
Yes, I'd like to extend an invitation to everyone here to attend a legislative roundtable that the aerospace industry is putting on tomorrow. It's at 11 a.m. here in the Capitol. It's in room 125. If you need any more information on that, please contact my office. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Donnell. Members, this House will stand in recess until 3:45 p.m. for the State of the Judiciary. Please arrive promptly to the floor. We will begin immediately at 3:45 p.m. This House will stand in recess.